I was muted. Hi, Christine. Can you hear me? No, I can't hear you. What's going on?
There we go. Am I
Okay.
live? Yep. Yeah, I'm on my iPad. I'm in a hotel in New York City, so
Oh,
I've never used my iPad for this before, so
well, that should be interesting.
it looks like it works.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, who knows that? Well, I was trying to do a video chat with someone yesterday who had an iPhone and I had an Android. Couldn't get it.
It did?
Right. Hello, Pam.
Telling you, I just took a migraine pill. I've got a raging headache. I'm gonna sit out this meeting, okay?
Okay, sure. We'll just take care of yourself. Oh, we don't need headaches. Okay. Talk to you later. Okay. Bye.
Yeah, I just heard that.
Yeah. Well, I think also the air is really bad. There's a lot of pollen and
I know my nose has been going nuts for about 3 days.
Yeah.
How come this looks really weird? I'm not seeing it like it usually is. I see a big giant thing of me and a little giant thing of you.
Oh, that's what usually happens if you're just doing a FaceTime thing.
Yeah, I know. Well, this is on my iPad, so.
But I don't think anyone else is on yet.
Right. Hopefully it.
So maybe it'll change when other people join in.
Yeah.
So, oh my God, there's so much going on.
Oh man.
Too much going on.
I know.
Stephanie sent me this whole spreadsheet about all of this. And I haven't really had a chance to look at it. But I don't think she sent it to everybody. I think she just
No, I didn't get anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Steve and Gwen sort of aren't understanding
Well,
that if we don't kind of take a little bit of control, it will be totally out of our control.
Well, right.
What am I not understanding?
That if we don't take a little bit of control, it will be totally out of our control. I'm not seeing you, Steve. Loretta, do you see him?
Yep.
God, I only see you.
That could be a good thing.
No.
I'm
now I see
dark.
you.
Yeah. No, maybe it just takes more time on the
that's
cell
better.
phone.
Now I look ghoulish.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
but it's almost October,
so
my
lighting. I've never figured it out. Here we go.
I know. I tried shutting my light off because I'm in this hotel room in New York City and I have no control.
Hi, Janet.
Hi.
Hi,
Janet.
Hi, Janet. No, I kind of get it. I do get it. If you don't assert yourself, you're right. You lose a little control, and God knows not many people are likely to be volunteering to do some of the things that surround this, right?
Right.
So, but
and some others that we don't necessarily. Some others might want to that we'd rather not.
No, yeah, of course.
Well, okay. So I think everybody that I'm expecting is here. Pam just called and said she has a migraine, so she's gonna sit it out. We don't need her here with migraine, that's for sure. So we have sort of a busy meeting tonight, so let's just get started. I don't know if people saw the minutes from last time, which was essentially about, the, bike paths, the mountain bike paths and everything.
Yep.
And does anyone have any questions with the minutes or anything that when they looked at them, or can we approve them?
No, I move we approve the minutes.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. And everybody else approves here? Who's here?
I'm gonna abstain because I'm afraid I didn't read it.
Oh,
Boy, Steve.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
okay. Let me just update you just a bit here on this. The farmer's market now has usually once a month, sometimes more, somebody from the Ashford Arts Council Ashford Area Arts Council come at the market. And so they pay a $15 fee. So slowly we've been getting more money from the farmer's market, which will really not impact this year, but will impact when I do the budget next year, that they have more money to use, because we're actually making more than I anticipated in the beginning of the year. So that's just an update for you to hear that part. And the other thing, I know there was a lot of people had a lot of feelings, including me, about what happened last time with the hacking and all of that really incredibly disruptive stuff. I talked with Mike, and Mike said that it happened at other places, and I said, well, should I be contacting the police? And he said, no, they won't do anything because they're from an illegal website and they couldn't do anything anyway, which was a little horrifying to me. You know, here is this video with people in it, or maybe it's not people, maybe it's just robots doing things. I don't know, but they look like people to me. But anyway, so I said, well, you know, can I be the host and be able to admit and delete people? Not delete people, but you know what I mean. And he said no, because I would have to use my own Zoom account. And so then I checked with, and so then I wanted to be on the agenda for Board of Selectmen, but the Board of Selectmen that last time
Canceled.
didn't meet. So
Right.
there was nothing on the agenda. So I wasn't on the agenda. It doesn't seem like there's much we can do with this. I talked to the clerks this morning and I said, well, can we just use our own Zoom and just not have it recorded, because we're an advisory, we're not a regulatory agency. And they didn't know really the answer because it shifted now. There was one thing when it was Zoom only, but now there's Zoom only and hybrid. So that's a little different. But they said they would check. So Sherry checked with Mike, and Mike said, as long as it's a Zoom meeting, it has to be recorded, whatever that means. So if we wanted to go in person, meet at the town hall like we used to, we could do that and we wouldn't need to record it, and it wouldn't need to be hybrid. But as long as we're doing the Zoom, it has to be recorded. So that's the follow-up on that.
Loretta, are you sure that if we meet in person, we don't have to offer hybrid to people?
That's what the clerk said today.
That's what they said?
Yep.
Okay.
Because they could come in person, other people could come to the meeting in person.
Yeah, but for the rest
As
of the
long
board,
as it's advertised. Now, that may be different with a regulatory agency. I'm not sure, like for instance, with your group, or
The rest of the-
obviously it's a public hearing. You would
the
have,
rest of the boards have to offer Zoom as if they're going in person.
Mhm.
Loretta, isn't
I
there
think it's
some
in
way-
transition now, what they're doing. Yes, wait just a second, Gwen, because everything has shifted, but now with the COVID inching up again, it may shift back. I don't know, but they're really in transition with this, because it started out with one particular manual with all these things, and then it shifted when hybrid was happening, and then there was a period of time where, and I think it's still going on, that you don't need to do a hybrid, but in the beginning you did. So
But
that's,
Loretta, what I don't understand is.
wait, Gwen had her hand up.
I'm sorry. I can't see anybody but you.
I just had asked at the other conservation commission for the district, and the reason they can host it a different way is because he's a staff member of the agency, and it seems like you're kind of like a staff member of the town, but you're not paid. And it just seems like there should be some way that a staff member could turn it on and then turn it over to you. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes this person, Dan Mullins, will turn it over and say, you know what, I'm busy hosting this. Can you watch and let people in who are legitimate people, and then kick people out who aren't, that's just implied, but we never had to kick anyone out. But
see, that may be because he has his own email on that Zoom account.
Yeah, and he's on the meeting.
It's a government agency and he's a staff, he's the head.
Right, but we don't have any staff on this call. It's just an automatic call that's been set up for us.
Right.
Now, if Mike was
It was
here,
in the beginning, because in the very beginning of COVID, we did have Mike or a member of his team sit in there, but that's no longer the case.
Well, it's
What?
no longer the case for our meetings, but it is the case for other
Right.
meetings in town.
Yeah,
Right, but-
PZC and BOS, yeah.
Okay, if anybody wants to fight about this is fine. I did everything I could. And if you want to put yourself on the agenda and say, why is this happening? That's perfectly fine with me, but I covered all the bases I could, and really I got nowhere fast. And one of the things that I was told was that a year ago, the same thing happened with the Board of Education. And it took them quite a while to get that messy stuff off of their website.
What I don't understand is I don't think these recordings for our group are going anywhere.
No, they are. They're up on
Yeah.
they're on the.
Are you
town-
sure? I've never seen them and I look.
Yes, they are. They're available on the website.
You can
On
look at,
whose website?
Town.
just like the Ag Commission is recorded too, or when they were recording them. Yeah, they all our meetings are recorded.
I understand that, but when I go to the YouTubes for the town of Ashford, I'm not seeing our meetings. I'm seeing PZC and BOS, but I'm not seeing our meetings there.
So it's awkward the way they set it up. They don't make it easy to find.
All right,
But I can send you links if
Okay.
you need them.
all right.
Yeah.
And Mike did assure me that he took off the part that we didn't really approve of. So on the recording, there is not that disruption going on. Oh boy, anyway. And then the other thing I wanted to just briefly mention was I did go to the senior housing and gave a little talk about the Conservation Commission, and the people. There were not a lot of people there, but they asked basically the whole time. They asked questions. They had a lot of questions about invasive species. They had a lot of questions about water and wetlands, and if you have problems, who do you contact and stuff like that. I thought they were very engaged, and I also told them that the Yale Forest is having a series on forest and climate change. It's every Monday on Zoom from 10 to 1. They're recorded, so you can go to their website and see them at any point. They're pretty good. They run 55 minutes, and they exactly at 12:55 they shut off. But they're mostly all professors who are talking about different aspects of how forests are impacted by climate change and what kinds of things are being done. They've been pretty interesting. And like I said, you can go to them if you go to yaleforest.ed speakers or something like that, and you can find it. So just watch so anyway, they were very interested. And one of the people suggested, why couldn't we get a big screen and put it in the cafeteria, the senior housing, and then everybody could watch all these things. And so a friend of mine donated a big screen. So they now have a big screen there and they can do all this stuff. So it was a nice little touch to very interesting thing. And I think at some point, maybe somebody could go back and talk some more, because I didn't even get a chance to talk about the farmer's market, which some of them I know come to the market pretty much every week. So the thing I really wanted to spend a lot of time on is seeing if we can make some progress on this survey. The background of this is that Christine and I talked with Jeff at a gathering, or a couple of gatherings maybe, about wanting to have some input into what the survey would be. Now, this is just a survey, and whatever we come up with is going to planning and zoning, and they will look at it and they will shift it and change it and whatever. But I also thought it was good to get as much input from people as possible. So the Keep Ashford Rural Group sent a couple of questions that they had worked on that they thought would be appropriate, as did the education department. And these were just suggestions. It's not cut in stone, but it gives us a better understanding. And it seems to me that any survey we want to bring forth to planning and zoning should be as comprehensive as possible, including all aspects, which I believe all aspects were included in the first one in 2005. They did cover all the areas. I had sent an email to Margie, Chady, and Luther for the Ag Commission, asking them to give some input, and they haven't responded. So that's where it stands now. And so all the things that I got, I passed on to you. And Stephanie had sent something, a spreadsheet to me, which I don't think you sent to others. Did you, Stephanie? No. So that's another input that we have here. Maybe you could you do that now? Send it so everybody can see it, because it is kind of hard to explain if you don't have it right in front of you.
Okay. I don't know. Can I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so I have a document too. Would it be easier to just screen share? And then you could talk about it, Stephanie? Does that make sense?
She's gonna try and send it to you. It'll be
Do you know how to screen share?
Yeah, but an Excel file might not be real easy to see
Yeah.
on a screen.
Just a window on the screen, so.
Yeah. What's your document? What'd you do,
You
Steve?
could screen share yours. Excuse me, Steve, while she's trying to do
Right.
that.
I
Yeah.
could, yeah. I mean, I just wrote down a bunch of things, and they're not necessarily, yeah, I'm a little confused about the questionnaire, whether it's a questionnaire, whether it's statements. There's a lot of different ways you could do things.
It's a questionnaire. I
yeah.
think it needs to be a survey with questions.
Yeah, okay, but the format can be, different ways. Hold on.
Yes, it can. I think, as far as I'm concerned, and so I worked on the Keep Ashford Rural one with people, and that was actually probably easier to do in person, sitting around doing it in person. So I think we're maybe a little impaired by doing this on Zoom, but my whole thing is, I think we need to keep it as simple as possible and as short as possible, even considering that we have to have a whole lot of different areas of concern. So, but we still need to try and keep it simple, because for surveys, sort of the bottom line is people only have about 3 to 5 minutes to attend to them.
Yeah. So one thing I heard, I listened to a recent PZC meeting too, and I heard that, and Janet, you were there. In fact, I think you may have, I know you were participating there. They pretty much said that their focus is now on rewriting the impact zone and
Right.
not on the POCD. So,
Well, um, I think that, how do I want to say this? Jeff had talked previously about doing the POCD and the interstate zone sort of together because one would inform the other. But now, which I thought was unrealistic because the POCD is going to take quite a bit of time and we need to get the interstate regulations done before that. So
Right.
now he's saying that we're going to work on the interstate zone because we have a time crunch on that. But that doesn't mean that we're not working on the POCD at all. I think he's got to get a committee together and, Loretta talked to him about doing the survey. So I don't think the POCD is not being worked on.
yeah, no, I wasn't saying that. I'm just saying that the emphasis right now is, and ultimately, I guess what I'm saying is that we're not up against a deadline to get this survey out, as far as I can tell.
Well, I think we are.
Yeah,
because
we
I
are.
think the sooner we get this to them and they look at it and get it sent, make any corrections that they need to make on it, then they send it out. All of this is going to take some time. And what we don't want is to rush through this POCD like we did the last time and have an inferior product. And my sense, and maybe others agree with me, is that the more we can flush out from people what they're interested in, we can use that to push the committee, whoever they be, to include some of the things that the vast majority of the people want. That I think that that's really important. And I do recall many, many times after that first survey in 2005, which I think, Steve, you also were involved with, that we use that to say, look, this is what the people want. We use that with Langheimer when the Board of Selectmen reversed their decision to sell it. So I think that we can gain a lot by, making a survey that's easy for people to fill out, that they don't have to really challenge themselves a lot to fill it out, but to also get a sense of where the people are. And I think now, in terms of economic development and stuff like that, I think many people are quite sensitive to what the whole mega warehouse deal and everything. So I think that in addition to the industrial farming thing, both of those things have been up for the town. So it seems to me like it's a really good time to get this survey to planning and zoning as fast as possible so they can do what they need to do to compile it and then send it out. I don't know if people agree with me on that, but yeah, Christine?
Yeah, and in addition, there's no reason that this couldn't inform the IID rezoning or update on rezoning. Because a lot of the questions, for example, the Keep Ashford Rural questions are pertinent to issues about that parcel.
Yeah. My only thought, and the reason I brought this up was that I don't think we should be rushing to send out a survey that we do once every 20 years. I think it should be well thought out, and that, we should take our time and do it right. And I get the sense that PCC is a little busy right now too. And so, but nevertheless, I mean, like I said, I came up with some ideas, but I do hope we have some time to formulate, intelligent and thoughtful questions.
Yeah, I think we need to be intelligent fairly fast, though. I mean, the moratorium only has what, Janet, 6 or 7 months left on it? So that's already kind of a time crunch.
Okay,
The-
so
For the
what's the
IID
time
zone.
frame? what's the time frame that we're working against?
Well, the moratorium ends in what? It's like 7 months now. And the POCD is due when?
Well,
June?
it's due June of 25. Jeff wants to have it completed by January of 25. because it
Right.
has to Go to a town meeting, etc.
That's not real far away.
Well, it seems to me, I agree with you, Steve. I think it is really important to be thoughtful about and just not just rush and patch something together. However, I think we all have some very strong ideas of the kinds of things that we would like in a survey. And I'm glad that people prepared things and thought about it. And maybe the thing to do is to share our ideas tonight and then have another meeting in person
Yeah, I
where
agree.
we have the papers and everything right before us and come up with a reasonable kind of product. It seems to me that everybody's going to have different ideas. I know, and that's great because again, that makes for a richer survey, which I think is one of the reasons why that survey was pretty good in the first time around, because people really thought about what kinds of questions, what kinds of issues were there writ large for Ashford, and many of the same ones are still around right now. But yes, I don't think we need to finish it tonight, but I think if we can put a good start on it and get the ideas on the table, get people thinking. So then, as I said, if we meet in person in say a week or so, I think that would help us move it and have it coalesce and come together.
Okay, so and that's why I posed the questions. Are we now the clearinghouse for every other agency that wants to comment too? Because that adds to our burden. I think our commission has their own opinions, and ideas, and they're not necessarily in concert with other people. And then,
Right.
if there
But
are,
we're not making a statement, Steve, with this.
Yeah.
We're giving people an opportunity to respond. And yes, I do think that we're a good agency to do that because yes, we have conservation in mind. And I think most of the people in Ashford, to some degree, have conservation in mind. Otherwise, I don't think that the people who showed up for the warehouse thing would have taken the time and effort and energy and moved past their own fears of public speaking to say things. So I don't
Or
think
written tons
we're-
of letters.
yes, we're making a statement by what questions we choose, but to have questions relating to all areas of the town, I think is essential.
sure. So did I miss something? Were there only 2 questions from Keep Ashford Rural?
Yeah,
Yes.
we were trying to be keep it simple and to focus on the things that we thought had really bubbled to the fore from the letters people wrote about the warehouse and from the speaking people had done about the warehouse. So we kind of tried to condense what we had heard from them, from the citizens from that initiative. And we wanted to keep it simple, so we only wrote 2 questions. And assuming that Conservation Commission would write maybe 2 questions, that Ed would write 2 questions, that EDC would write 2 questions, something like on the order of that.
Do we have a copy of the 2005 questionnaire?
I sent it out to everybody and
I
Lorena
sent it to everybody, yeah.
It's
Okay,
not
good.
a copy of the questions.
It's the-
Only what's in there is only the analysis of it, but it tells you sort of what the questions were and the response sets. It should be in your email. We can do that again. We can send it out again.
Did you get that? Or maybe you didn't get it, Steve.
I'm checking.
I had sent the 2005 POCD a PDF of it way back when.
Well, I sent it recently after I sent that to you, question when you were in Maine. I sent
Right.
it out to all the conservation people.
Right, and I
Right.
think that was just the appendix. I think that was just the appendix with the
But I think from that
analysis.
results of all that, it's pretty easy to understand what the question was. And I thought that some of the questions were really good,
Yeah.
in terms of being very comprehensive. And it seemed to me that the better way to do it is, to put things down and give people a chance to respond, because I think open-ended things, some people are gonna be very good on that, and other people they're not gonna know what to say.
And it's hard to analyze.
Okay, I apologize. I did find that I had not seen it or read it, so, good, that's great to have that.
Okay,
So you
Steve,
can
so do you
see-
wanna-
You can see from those, from that 2005 survey that it hits all kinds of areas.
Well, like I said, I'm just looking at it
Yeah.
for the first time, so I'm not seeing anything right now, but
Okay,
I will make the time to do that.
okay, Bill,
How was that survey disseminated? How did people find it?
As far as I understood, it was sent by mail to people,
So the whole town got it.
as
Yes.
far as I understood.
I remember
Right.
that. I remember filling it out.
it says that it
Yeah.
was mailed to everyone in town.
Right.
Right, it was, yeah. And,
Would
I don't-
would
I
this
forget-
one be mailed to everybody, or how would we reach all the people?
Every address, same way,
Right.
everybody else sends something to every address in
It's like
Ashford.
the same thing as the citizen, Bill. The
Right.
citizen it gets mailed to every household.
Okay.
Every mailbox, yeah. Now Luther wants to put it online also for younger people. I think it needs to go, and at least, I think it needs to go to every household. And if he wants to do online also, that's fine, but there are a lot of old people around.
Yeah, I think you should mail it and then,
Yeah,
and then.
And put it
you know,
online, access.
You can respond online maybe, but
right.
Right.
need to do both.
So Steve, do you want to screen share?
Oh, I
your
could,
idea?
yeah, I can do that. Hold
Okay.
on.
I did send my thing to everybody, by the way.
Okay.
Did you just send it, Stephanie?
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay. Again, you can all see it?
Yep.
Not really. I'm on an iPad, so everything's really tiny. Okay, I can sort of see it if I squint and look real close.
I can mail it out too. So again, some of these are statements, or not again, but some of these things may be statements that I'd want to be sure were included in the PLCD, but some could be formulated to be part of a questionnaire. For instance, under economic development goals, please rank by importance the following. You can see the different things you could add to that, subtract from it. I thought, we have an opportunity to talk about what goes into these.
Can I just say that probably EDC is going to be doing questions, so probably we aren't going to have to do that.
Well, I would like to see. I see no reason why we wouldn't also be able to do economic development questions.
Sure.
They
Yeah.
will have their own
Right.
bias.
Yep. Spool down to the conservation ones.
I think some of these things are already in the PLCD. But there are comments that perhaps further refine some things, like afford special protection to areas identified by the State Natural Diversity Database. Towns do not have to even consider the Natural Diversity Database. But I think it would be nice for our POCD to explicitly state that we would take that into consideration. Does everybody know what the Natural Diversity Database is?
Yeah, but you know, for the citizens of Ashford doing a survey, they aren't going to know, and it would take too much to explain to them. I think simplifying this concept, that what we tried to do with the Keep Ashford Rural ones was, okay, the first one of these, how much do you care about clean water? How much do you care about diverse wildlife? How much do you know, like simple concepts? These are statements that I think go into the POCD based on people caring about clean water and wildlife preservation and blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the specifics of how they get into the survey, I think are, should,
Be simple.
well, can I say what I was gonna say?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I think we should look at, all the comments and then decide, you know, what's best.
Right.
Here are a couple more, things that the town could do, I'm not sure this is PLCD, but it's development in
Yep.
some sense. And I'm not sure that the document from Keep Ashford Rural mentions any of this, but Ashford should provide more guidance and assistance to help residents understand and participate in town government, boards and commissions, understand and navigate the building permit process, avail themselves of town services by holding workshops, meetings, seminars, whatever.
Steve, and I looked at the current POCD and there are 9 areas that are addressed. And governance is one of them.
Right.
Health and safety
And
is
the Keep
another.
Ashford
But I
Rural
didn't
said there was
feel
something.
like I could address all of them. It's a lot.
Why not? It's the
Education is
POCD.
one of them.
If we're to be the clearinghouse for the questionnaire, then I think we can address any topic that's covered in the POCD.
Right, and again, it's important to understand the survey is to help either add to the present POCD, change it around, go back to like everything that was said in 2005, you know, come up with some new things. What the survey's intent is to provide people an opportunity to respond to the kinds of things that they're really interested in right now. And I think it is very important to include all of these different things, Steve, that you had, and maybe things that other people have had too, so that people can express. And I think it's up to us to come up with a way of writing it so people can say the things that are really important, the things that are not important. I mean, we could do, you know, rating things and stuff like that, because I think that helps people when you're writing up, or helps the group of people who end up writing the POCD come up with a document that really reflects what the people want. I mean, not everybody, obviously, there's going to be vast extremes on either side, but what you really want to do is have a robust tally of what are the things that people are interested in. And so I think these things, Steve, are really good. I mean, they obviously, people can check some of these off, if we, rank them or check the ones that you really like and leave the ones blank that you don't. This is the kind of thing I think that can be helpful to people. So, yes, and I think you should include all of these, and maybe economic development will give us some stuff. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll send in their own. I mean, I know Luther's on the planning and zoning anyway, so he might be also on the committee and everything, and he's also the chair of the Ag Commission, so he may do that. But that doesn't stop us from including some of the farming agricultural aspects that we know about, that we're involved with.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm glad that's good to hear, because yeah, we have a different perspective on some of these issues, and at some point there'll be compromise. I think we have to sort of make it easy for people. One of the challenges
Yes.
is to get people to actually respond. They're
Right.
not
Yes.
going to respond if it's, I don't know,
Cumbersome.
if it's not
Cumbersome.
simple and relatively short. And so we have to
Right.
figure it out.
Exactly. It's like, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah. So, okay, good. I'm glad to hear all that. So I haven't heard anything that I just want to set some boundaries about the way I should be thinking here too, and I think that's helpful for the rest of us too, right?
Yeah, I think right now, what we need to do right now is like kind of brainstorm, freeform it. But then we need to sit down and kind of, I think that should be in person, pull things together into individual questions, and kind of prioritize. I mean, it's the prioritization that I think is probably going to be the most important.
I think we also need to think about what's the format? Do we want,
Right.
if we're ranking in order of importance, how many items should be ranked?
Yeah, sure.
Right.
And how are the questions going to be asked?
Yeah, that all takes time. And it, yeah, you're right. And I don't think there's one answer for any one thing either. Some things lend themselves to ranking and others to, put them in
Boxes.
order by importance or something, or yes or no even.
Right.
I didn't see, Steve, did you include anything on housing?
Was that a question for me?
Yeah, no,
Oh,
I was looking at your stuff, and I know you covered a lot of things. I just wondered, I don't know if I think I saw everything.
Loretta,
This is it so far.
I thought since we just did the housing survey, we weren't necessarily going to ask these questions again.
I agree.
Well, do we think that the housing survey answered the questions that we want to put into the POCD?
Well, I think it was a different take on it because we were talking more about affordable housing. And I think there is an issue of housing in terms of population loss, population gain, that I think the POCD should address, and it is one of, I think, the issues. And I know, so I included it in my grid, listed as housing.
Well, there is also an issue of whether the town should have a housing authority other than the one that just does the senior housing.
There may be 2 pages of my grid.
Yeah, I think I'm only seeing one on my phone.
I'm only seeing your email. I'm not seeing the grid anymore.
Well, it's moved, it's on the second page, when she pages over.
because housing is on the second page, tourist attractions,
Yeah.
businesses, home businesses, internet-based businesses are all on the second page.
Yeah, so your grid, Stephanie, I would not answer this question. It's way too complicated, so somehow we'd need to make this easier. I mean, I think all of these issues or these kind of concepts are important, but doing it into this kind of grid is kind of impossible.
Can everyone see the grid? I can't see it. I don't
It's
see it.
on your phone. You should have gotten an email if you have your,
Oh, are you looking on your
Oh.
emails?
yeah,
Well,
I
that's
am.
where Stephanie sent us,
Just now.
Yeah, I didn't get it yet.
I got it. I downloaded it and I'm trying to find where I downloaded it. And then I could share it if we wanted to, but,
Well, Stephanie's got it. I just saw it up here. So Stephanie, did you share? Can you share the second page?
Well, whose screen is up here now? Is that yours, Steve?
yeah, that's mine. I'll stop
Okay,
sharing.
there's that the Excel file at the bottom.
You could just click on the Excel file.
Well, no, why don't you share it? Do you know how to share?
No.
Oh,
No idea.
I think it's important. to
okay, all right.
encourage
Open.
economic Development in Ashford.
Let
That's
me
is that
try
the one-
again.
Is that the one we're talking about? This,
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
okay.
I get mine.
So I just gridded it as a way to think about it,
Right.
not necessarily that you would use this format, because you're right, it's too busy and
Right. Oh, it's
what have
impossible.
you. But I
But
tried
yeah,
to,
no, these are, yeah, all issues.
well, I think it's good in that it gives, an idea of like, to, that first thing right at the top. Do you think it's important to encourage economic development in Ashford? I think that's a good, economic development starting point to use, and then maybe spell out some things. And I think that's what,
That's what Carr did.
right, yeah. So I
Yeah, but-
think,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about there might be a couple of things, that in all of that economic development, what about clean energy aspects to that?
Right.
That might be another aspect to include all the areas that we're sort of interested in, but it really affects the town as a whole.
Mhm.
Because I think, one of the things, going back to the housing thing, I think the survey was good, that I think Stephanie, you and Janet did that. However, now there was this whole thing with the enormous rent increase after that survey was done, that is really crunched on people in our town. It's something like $400 a month it went up, or something like that. So there might be just one area that could be included, given that. And my understanding is that, Jessica, who is director of senior housing, has, created, a 501c to help create more affordable housing within senior housing within the town. So,
one of the
that's
things
just
that-
another thing of like, is that something that people in our town feel is important, or maybe not? I don't, again, I think it's a question that people need to be made aware of. And sometimes when you put these questions down, it, triggers people's
Triggers, yeah.
mindset, like Stephanie has a box here for clean energy. Well, that's really good to get people thinking, oh, clean energy, yes, which they might not think that way.
Yeah.
and like internet-based, basically, that's a couple of things. One is a lot of people now work from home.
Yep.
Mhm.
And so that could impact the housing piece. Because if people want to live in a rural area, but now they can work at home, that's an attraction, but then you want them to come live here. And then they want to see that you have stuff here to do and what have you. Anyway, so it all sort of interacts.
There are parts of Ashford that do not have internet. Like,
I was
North
wondering
Ashford.
about that.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
that would be my house.
Your house too?
My house, the only way I can get internet is through T-Mobile,
Cellular?
through the airwaves.
Satellite.
Wow.
The,
And recently, what's the company that just came around?
Frontier.
Yeah, well, they stopped, way up Wormwood Hill. They come in from
Really?
Mansfield. And my neighbors, Luther doesn't have it either.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so, I mean,
the
I'm a
town,
second-class citizen.
the town was spending, some of their ARPA money to get broadband to people. Do they know that you don't have it?
Who would I complain to?
Board of Selectmen?
Selectmen.
Okay, I will.
They were getting it up. I know they're getting up Lips Road, and I don't know where else.
Great.
Steve, at the Board of Selectmen next meeting, ask a question in the public section.
Hmm.
Sure, I will. Yeah.
That's what I do.
No, that's a big one with me because
Yeah.
I would have had to pay $15,000 for charter to just run the cable to my house.
Oh
Wow.
my God.
And I'm on a
No, and there
public
are
road.
there are people in North Ashford who don't have it too. I mean, yeah, there are people in Ashford that do not have internet.
Our next door neighbors just got the Frontier and they're very unhappy with it. They had charter before, and they felt the advertising was misleading and they can only get it in certain rooms. So it's not as good as it was said to be.
Well, that would be something that I would like to see in the POCD that we
Really?
recommend.
Yeah.
Well, but if, as Janet says, the town has put some money into, then Board of Selectmen needs to know where it's not working.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that they can bitch to Frontier. If that's the issue.
Or that maybe when a new service comes in like Frontier, if it's not working,
Right.
what's the point? I mean, it seems like, oh, this is really good, we have this, but if we don't really, because it's
Right.
not really adequate. And that, and to Stephanie's point, like a lot of people work from home now, so.
Yep.
If we want people to stay in Ashford, we've got to have them be connected.
And especially young people.
Right. Yeah, remember that? Was that at the Keep Ashford Rural Group where somebody said they had to go outside and walk up the hill?
Oh, yeah.
Use their cell phone?
Nora and what's his face?
Oh.
Yeah.
We barely get cell phone here. I tried using one of the Verizon chips at one point to bring internet into the house here. And we don't get enough service down here. We're in a valley.
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty awful at the town hall, and I can
Yeah.
never get service. I have a Cumbies card and I can never use it because I can't get internet service to bring it up. There's some spots in town like that, but yeah, hopefully I was hoping the broadband initiative would have addressed some of that, but whatever.
And that's so silly because Cumbies is right practically next to the tower at Midway.
Yeah, but different towers service different
Yeah, I think that's AT&T.
vendors. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that might be an important question to ask about town services and.
Yep.
Maybe I sort of recall there might be something like that in the old survey. I'm kind of looking through it now.
Yeah, but that was
that seems like that would be an
Yep.
important question to include.
that was
But-
kind of at an early point in all of this, so 2003.
Right.
one thing I was looking at farming. And I got into a rabbit hole looking at different aspects of farming and the costs of farming and the cost to the towns of farming, and ran across an interesting value, which might be I haven't figured out the question or how to phrase the question yet, but for industries or for well, looking at the cost to the town per residence versus per business versus either industrial or farming, that the cost was something like, this is from 2012, but the cost per residence was about $1.21 per dollar of tax that they paid. For farming, it was, what's that?
The cost of what, Bill?
The cost of services provided by the town to a residence.
Okay.
Okay, that includes, the dump and, all the other things that go on in the town. That's the cost. To a farm, it was about 21 or 22 cents, something like that on the dollar. And for industries, it was about the same, 22, 25 cents to a dollar. Like I said, this was from 2012, but I'm going to see if I can find out more information on that. But that might be interesting information to include in a survey for people to consider this in their aspect of in their consideration of what they think is important to the town.
Oh, I want to make sure I understand that. Are
I
you
think it's a
saying that,
little,
are you saying that residents are subsidizing
farm and
businesses
commercial,
and
yeah.
farms?
No, exactly. It's the opposite.
The opposite.
It costs a lot less to have a farm in town than it does to have a house in the town.
Well, that's what I mean. So residents who pay their property taxes are subsidizing
No.
Farm and industry.
businesses.
Well, no, what it's saying is that it costs 20 cents on a dollar to support a farm.
Oh, it costs 20
Yeah.
Yeah.
cents.
And the cost to support a residence is over $1.
Ah, okay.
So the farming and the industry are subsidizing the residents.
In essence, they are. Probably the reason that the cost is so high on the residents is because there's not a lot of income tax coming from these other sources. But
Well, in some
you
ways,
don't
that,
gain anything extra by having an industry versus a farm. I guess that was the point that I was trying to make.
in some ways, that feeds into Dan Donahue's thing about open space land or conserved land actually is less costly to the town than anything else. Because it doesn't cost any services.
Exactly.
That's not just Dan Donahue's opinion.
Well,
That's a
whatever.
well-known thing, yeah.
Yeah, no, but he has an article that's on the Keep Ashford Rural website, which I think, so all these issues, if we can get a forum, those would be things that would be really good to present in an educational forum.
Well, the piece of that, Christine, that we could be aware of is the way we set up these questions can
Right.
be an educational forum to people. For
That's what I was
instance,
saying. I have
if we
trouble kind
say,
of formulating the question on the basis of that.
right, to
But I bet
somehow
we could.
say the cost to the town, for residents is higher than for open space or agriculture industry,
But particularly if you're talking about like for bringing income into the town from tourists or from people coming through. For instance, this bike thing that they were talking about last week at the Cradle back
Cattle Rock, yeah.
property, that if you can bring people in and support small businesses, that'll be much more economically valuable to the town than building more houses, for example.
right.
I really want to be sure that you're covering everything too. Like, don't forget the state helps subsidize towns to some degree anyway. And is that based on industry or population or houses? I don't really know.
They had the estimates, this is from 2012, but they had estimates from like 5 or 6 different towns like Putnam and I forget what the other towns were that were in there.
What's the source of the information?
It's a Yukon study that came out in 2012 about, I was looking at a farming site actually, and that's where the information was.
So there's no bias there, I'm sure.
Being
I'm-
an agricultural college, right?
I'm joking.
Yeah, right.
You know, I'm not.
Got it, Steve.
Yeah,
Well, I think the big thing that gets
your right
figured
wing is
into
coming out.
residents is the children and the school. Because the school, for the budget for the town, the school is the biggest budget item. So when you're talking residents, you're talking
About students.
children in
Yeah,
schools.
yeah.
You know, and more roads, generally
And
speaking.
roads, yeah.
Houses, you have more roads, and it's
And more
maintaining the
maintenance.
roads. Not only maintaining them, but also cleaning them up during the winter months, so.
And the
those are
transfer
kind of things.
station. Transfer station.
And they're generating waste, so.
Right,
That's
exactly.
very costly.
That we pay for.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
How do the camps fit into this? People say that we're camped to death, that we don't get the taxes that we would be getting if it was a business paying, if it was not a nonprofit.
I don't know.
Well, certainly if you
Is
looked
that
at,
enhanced?
if you put a whole bunch of houses where the Boy Scout camp is,
Mhm.
that would then add a great deal of cost to the town, because are those houses, some of those houses are gonna have kids in them. And so then you're gonna have that, and then you're gonna have roads there to maintain. So all of that,
We should get
and
this
they're
information
generating
out.
trash. So if you look at it from that perspective, now you look at it, well, people come and they drop their kids off at Boy Scout camp or whatever. And if there were some restaurants open, they might stop and have a meal. But since there's no restaurants open except this little window for Wooden Spoon, which I can't ever figure out when they're open.
I
But
know.
anyway, they're open a very minimal amount of time, so that you're
Or the
losing.
food truck now.
So, you know,
Well,
and the
the-
Midway is gonna take a while for them to
The
reopen.
hole
They
in the
will
wall
reopen, but
obviously
it's gonna take a
benefited
while.
Midway.
Mhm. Right.
The food truck now at the dairy bar.
Yeah.
For how long?
Yeah, right.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not, I think, Tammy's gonna be there probably till the end of October. But I don't know that there's consistent days that she's there. I think more on the weekends.
Hmm.
And obviously, if it's a storm, she's probably not gonna be there.
Right.
People are not as likely to stop. But it's a good location because everybody knows the Ashford Dairy Bar, which is for sale. If
Right.
anyone's interested in pursuing small business.
So's the airline one too.
Yeah,
I guess that's not those aren't good business models or something. I don't know why, but
so, let's just look at, I think, if we could just agree on, we're gonna focus on issues, economic development, education, conservation, governance. What else has people, and conservation can include recreation also. Because I know, I think people in town are very interested in hiking, biking, and walking.
sure.
You have another area that I missed, Steve, with your,
Oh, boy. You know, I've been thinking about all this for a few weeks now, but I only attempted to write it down today. So,
oh,
you know, this is a first pass, and that's why I was kind of hoping that we have more time, but
okay,
I can develop this more too, and you know, try to bring more things together. Things like recreation, certainly are big ones. And Stephanie has touched
Yeah,
on-
and Stephanie has housing also and services. And clean energy. Now, some of these can be included in pieces of other things, but I just wanted to, have a handle on several categories that
Well,
we had, and then when we come together, we can focus on each category and come up with, I like the thing that you had, Stephanie, with the different aspects. Air quality, water quality, night darkness, density,
Because
noise.
some things apply to one thing and not the other, so you'd have to figure it out.
Yeah,
that's part of the process, is formulating questions from all our thoughts, right?
Right.
And at this point, I think we're just coming up with thoughts, right? And then
Can I suggest if you look at the current plan of conservation and development and you look at the
Those sections.
objectives and goals for
Yeah.
each group,
Yeah.
might trigger some thoughts about what's the next
Sure.
what's the next thing to do or what hasn't been done. And
Mhm.
what kind of questions do we need to ask?
And how do we frame something? Because I was looking at some of it, and most of the things that were listed haven't been addressed in the 10 years
Yeah.
that it's been there. at all.
Well, this is a chance to update that and push harder.
Now, does outdoor recreation include hunting and fishing?
Yes.
Yeah.
sure.
Maybe
Yeah.
that we want to have that separated because you have different kinds of people and you don't want to have them maybe on the same trails at the same time.
Well, but that's, I think, further down the line, if you can get a sense of how many people want to have preservation of open spaces or preservation of wildlife habitat or something else, then further down the line, when you make action items and write up the thing, you delve into those different possibilities.
But you might
But,
plan it out differently. If you have planned for a bicycling area,
right,
the hunters and then the hikers, it just, it might be
But Gwen,
conflict.
what we're really doing now is determining, are people interested in biking? Are they interested in fishing? We're not doing the development of what's next.
right.
I have some neighbors that are really into hunting, but it's
Right.
right.
Hammer
But that's a
for-
little specific, and what we're
Okay.
trying to do is just come up with a general pattern.
The whole town.
People can be thinking about that, then we can meet in person, and I think it will go much faster. Like on the initial 2003 survey, the third question, which asked people to rate their satisfaction with several areas, I think it is a really good summary for a lot of things. Among them, transfer station, recycling program, education, availability of suitable housing, protection of water and air quality, services for senior citizens, maintenance of roads, size and location of roads, public safety, access to medical care, recreational opportunities.
Mhm.
I mean, I think that there are like maybe 15 of them. I don't know how many. That seems to be something that's a good beginning point that gives people immediately a chance to say, what are the things? Yeah, we need more we need more recycling, for instance, we might say, that kind of stuff. So I think that if you look back on that old survey and look at that third question, I think that question really jumped out at me as being very helpful to look at what people are satisfied with and what they're not satisfied with. The one thing I don't see here is what we were talking about before is the availability of services, internet services and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But I think that would be a good thing to add to that box, but that just seems like something that people can look at and very quickly relate to and pick out areas where they think they're very happy and areas where not. I mean, like
Mhm.
retail shopping, well, there isn't any, well, really,
Right,
basic,
right.
you know, stuff like that. So, and another one is wildlife habitat protection. I think it really is pretty inclusive of things, and there may be certain things that, you know, clean energy, for instance, that we could add or something, but it just seems like that is a good starting point, if that to me anyway, so people can look at that as a starting point.
I'd actually like to encourage people to look at the Keep Ashford Rural questions that Loretta sent around. You know, there are only 2, but they really did target. Well, one was, what types of economic development would you most like to see in town? And it hits a lot of the different areas, and certainly more could be added. And then the other one comes directly from all the letters and the public spoken word about the warehouse. Which rural attributes do you think are important for us to maintain? That's what people talked about in all their letters and in all their public speaking.
Well, a
so
lot
kind
of that, Christine, these questions also were the ideas that Stephanie had on that first.
Right.
So I think all of that, yeah, that she captured all that. So that's something
Right.
that it seems to be a good question to use all of what Rural Group did and what Stephanie did and put them together if any are missing.
Right.
You know?
Yeah,
It
I
seems
think,
like-
you know, I think
Because
the
I looked
rural
at that
questions
to-
could be
to get-
added to.
Uh-huh.
Can I, one thing is it even possible in a survey like this to ask open-ended questions like, if there's going to be development, what would you like to see in the IID zone, the Cadle, you know, how does one answer that? That's,
Well, the first Keep Ashford Rural question is, what types of economic development would you most like to see in town? And then listed offices and services, i.e. hair care, childcare, veterinary, restaurant, bar, large-scale commercial, i.e. retail, large industrial, i.e. warehouses, light industrial, i.e. tool max or pith or
okay, so
whatever,
you're
home
operating choice.
businesses. What?
Yeah, so the point is,
No, you
there-
could rank, you could have, give a 1 to 5 rating for each of these.
oh, okay, yeah, but you're supplying an answer for
You
them.
could
You're
put
not
in-
asking them to write something.
You could have another 2, but
Could have
Steve,
another
it's
category at the end.
it's also gotta be possible to analyze this data. And
Yes, right.
you do open-ended, and it takes enormous amounts of time to deal
Right,
with
it
that.
won't work. That's my point. You know,
Yeah,
if
But
we're,
we could, you know, it could certainly be an other for any of these things that, you know, someone could go through and capture odd things that maybe 18 people wrote in, but you know, whatever.
Right.
Janet and Stephanie, when you did the housing thing, did you include a lot of other categories and did people respond to that other
Sure.
statement, question?
Yeah, people had thoughts, not everybody,
Mhm.
but often the thoughts were, they may be something that you just didn't think about.
Right,
And so it's good to have an other, please
Right.
describe as a possibility, even though 95% of the people won't answer it. Sometimes you get some good information.
right.
We did have a spot at the end of the survey where people could write anything else they wanted to add.
Mhm.
sure.
And people vented their spleens about things there.
Right, yeah. And that's a good thing to do. That keeps people
Yes.
interested in doing the survey.
Right.
But again, the goal would be to have as many things listed already that would be the ones that would capture more people.
Sure. Yeah, that's good, good. I'm glad to see that. Great.
Right.
And again, again, if you look at the car questions, it's like simple concepts, like which rural attributes do you think are important for us to maintain? Quiet, limited light pollution, preserved open spaces, fields, forests, and waterways. I mean, simple, big concepts, rate this 1 to 5. So, I mean, that gives you a sense of, okay, what do people really think is important here to be in a rural community? And, I mean, you could talk about quiet in a lot more complex ways, like, no chainsaws in the highway, whatever. But just having it be quiet is maybe enough. Because that's what, again, during the warehouse issues, that was something that so many people talked about. That's what I love about Ashford. It's quiet, and this mega warehouse is going to, blow that away. So, again, big concepts, and then it gets broken down in terms of the POCD and, okay, what does that mean and how do you address it? But that's me.
One of the things that on the first question in the stuff from the Keep Ashford Rural,
Yep.
that I'd like to see is really specific examples, so
Right.
that people get a sense of what you're talking about, because
Exactly.
and one of the things that I think wasn't listed that could be listed is tourist related.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, these were
services
like beginning draft questions.
Yep.
But I think that both of these are a format that lends itself to more additions, many more additions that would cover a lot of the things that we're already talking about.
Mhm.
So anyway.
And yeah, so those two are good questions, as are some of the things that other people have submitted so far. But I also think, going back to that initial survey,
Yeah.
there's a question 6, which I think is really pertinent to us as a Conservation Commission. It says citizens rated the importance of the following features of expanding land conservation efforts. And it lists 6 different things. And it seems like that would be an important, maybe we might even add something to that, but and it relates to a lot of what we've been talking about: conserving land for wildlife habitat, conserving land for passive recreation, conserving land for agricultural uses, conserving land for forestry, conserving land for active recreation, conserving land for hunting and fishing. So I think that and like I said, we may add more to that. Even like, I think since in Ashford we have so many Joshua Trust properties that hiking and walking are pretty big, and people really like. And I would also include biking, and particularly mountain biking, which apparently is really big now. But I think that's another question that we need to pay attention to and swing that over into the new survey that we create.
Absolutely. I think that, distinctly conservation things are important for us to know about.
Well, it says it right there in 6, the active recreation, ball fields and biking. And we maybe want to even address horses, because a lot of people ride horses.
Yep.
On the trails.
Horse trails.
Yeah.
Hey, can I ask, Janet, with your experience, so some of I'll make a comment, and then I'm hoping to get your opinion on some of this, but some of the things, questions are asked, what kind of development would you like to see in town? And I have a little problem with questions like that, because residents have really no say in what kind of development comes to town. mean, it's up to the individual landowners, to propose something, and then it's, they have a right to be heard about it. And it's not like you can, wish a bakery to be, a bakery to come to Ashford. You essentially, somebody has to see it as a viable business, and then, decide they want to take the risk to bring it to Ashford. So my point is, asking sort of leading questions like, what would you like to see? While it could be useful from a planning and zoning perspective, is that at all useful? And
Yeah, that's a good question. And one of the, Our Town, Our Future groups, everybody wanted a pharmacy in town. Well, that's just not going to happen. I think for planning and zoning, we can't address the type of business. We only address the parameters, the size,
Right.
So a lot
And
of
the uses, and the uses.
and the uses to some extent, but you can't be totally specific to that.
Right.
Like Dollar General came in and they met our zoning requirements. So even though some people didn't like Dollar General, you couldn't really say no to them.
Okay.
So I think some of the questions might help the commission decide, oh, people don't want really big buildings, so we need to make our regulations, for smaller buildings.
Right.
But
I think that part of the problem is to create the environment to draw that kind of business, whatever type of business that you want. And that's, like the Arts Council, from what I understand, they're trying to develop arts communities here. And this would draw people with that bent into the community. The bike trail would draw people who like mountain biking into the area. Just those types of things. You have to create the environment. Planning and zoning can't do that. There are regulations for how to do it when you do it, but.
Well, no, but they can. I mean, by setting the by setting the zone, they fostered and drew the mega warehouse people by setting that zone the way they did. By setting the other commercial zones, they're setting the parameters that would allow for those things. So planning and zoning can set, as Janet said, set parameters that then either limit or invite certain kinds of development.
Okay, but my point is more to, I think we should be careful about asking questions that give the public, and this is going to go to every town resident, that
Yep.
give them the impression that they can help decide what sorts of, more specifically, what kinds of businesses come to town. I don't think we should I don't know how we do it, but I mean, maybe we preface it by saying, giving some education, some short blurb. I don't know, but.
Well, I think I agree, and I've always thought about this. It's like, yeah, we can want whatever, everybody in town wants a restaurant, but there has to be someone who wants to operate a restaurant to
Right.
come in here to make it happen. However, if we were to question about something like, what kinds of services would you support in Ashford? Then when a person calls economic development and says, we're interested in doing this, we have this business, and economic development can say, in our last survey, most of the residents said they would support a restaurant, or they were interested in having a barbershop, or whatever. It doesn't matter. But I think that can be just as traffic, influence. Dollar General came here because of traffic on 44. They knew how much traffic was going by there, then they wanted it there because it would both get 74 and 44 traffic. So, I mean, that was a wise move on their part, but of course they're a corporation. But I think that was one of the reasons why that they were attracted to that property and were willing to negotiate a little, right? Didn't they make their building smaller because of the regs, because of parking, Janet?
Made it less
Yes.
ugly, less square.
Yeah. Okay, Gwen, you have your hand up.
Yeah, yes, well, we limit size, but can we limit water usage, like mega usage of water? Could that be a limiting factor?
Yes, we can go, PZC can go to a different way, which Luther has been talking about, a different way of defining buildable lots, for example. You know, I mean, there are all kinds of different ways of thinking that other towns are doing that planning and zoning can start to ease into.
I think
That
that
talks
a
about
limit
septic
fresh water or clean
systems.
water. I mean,
That talks, yeah.
a restaurant has to use some water, but you know, certain mega something would use so much more, and so we have to factor that in because people, that's important to people in this town. At least I think it is.
Yeah, you can, Gwen, you could require a special permit for any building that uses over X number of gallons of water. Okay, that's, that, if you look at the zoning regs, there are special permits required for, if you want to build a 200 square foot
Greenhouse,
no, not greenhouse, farm stand.
farm stand, right? Sorry.
So right now we have a limit. At present, we have a limit.
Yes.
Yeah, but you could do the same for water, for instance.
Right.
Right, Janet?
I assume you could, yes.
I think there was an issue with and initially the bakery going into that 74 slot about how many hours could she be open since she was using water.
It wasn't, I believe it wasn't the water, it was the septic.
Oh, okay,
Wasn't
Makes sense.
designed for that kind of use.
right. So those are water issues, that water related issues,
Right.
planning and zoning are very tuned into. And influences a lot of what goes on.
Right.
Even though, I mean, the history is that we had that big bar there, Sneakers, which was a pretty big bar, had a lot of people in it. I'm sure their septic system was compromised. You know where I mean right now, where the
Yeah.
charter is or
Yeah,
something?
that's
Empty
around,
bar restaurant. Yeah.
it's surrounded by swamp.
Wetlands. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, planning and zoning can also define uses. So they can define industrial or not include it. So, there's a lot that planning and zoning can do with the regulations to either inhibit or invite.
I don't know if we talked about housing, our computer died, but one of the things about housing is affordable housing, which would mean perhaps changing lot sizes to make smaller housing units be okay here where they're currently not.
Yeah.
The planning and zoning just approved the affordable housing plan. However, the state doesn't require us to do anything about it other than approve the plan. But I would hope that we would get around to looking at some of the issues. We've already made it easier to build and easier to build accessory units, in-law apartment type things.
Yep.
So Loretta, where do we go from here? And, I mean, it's collecting details or collecting ideas, right? And then,
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah, I think we actually have a lot of places where we're all in agreement about certain things that we need in a survey. And it seems like we also have a pretty good sense of the categories that we want to use. And now it becomes, what's the best way to phrase a question so that you're gonna get answers from people that they understand what the question is and they're motivated to answer the question. Because if it becomes too challenging for a person, they're just going to look at it and say, I don't want to do this. I think
Yeah.
Christine alluded to that about, the attention span. It can't be that long. It can't be that short. And I think since we have these different groups of people so far who have submitted, including, all of you who are here tonight, that if we put all that together, and come up with, I would say, I mean, it seems to me, that we don't want to have much more than, well, how many questions did your housing survey have? Do you remember? Like about 20, maybe?
Yeah, that would be about right, I think.
Yeah, I don't think we should.
But they didn't have as many like pieces to them as we're thinking of.
Well,
Uh-huh.
some of the questions were long, but
Most weren't.
some of them were short, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we have to really be mindful of 20 would be the limit, and we would hope to come up with less than 20 questions. But I think we've got a good start on some of the questions. I think that a couple of the questions from the Keep Ashford Rural, Stephanie enlarged upon some of those. So I think that those would be good. And I think a couple of the expanding on some of the ones from the initial survey would be helpful. And then looking at, you had a lot of economic development things there too, Steve, that I think we could incorporate in. So I think that we've got a good start on things. And looking at, the other thing that I don't know that we talked about is that Board of Education submitted some
Right.
suggestions that they had.
So
And
can I just say, Loretta, I found out today, I believe that what they submitted are their goals that they came up with.
Okay.
Which are good goals, I think. But I'm going to follow up and see if they have real questions that they'd like to ask.
Yeah, sort of
right,
priority.
but I also think that a lot of these things are areas that we could do, survey the town in terms of what's the interest in all of these are some of the goals of the education department. Which of these are most important to you, for instance, something like that. Yeah. So that I think there's some good information here, which also includes a lot of stuff that we've been interested in, stuff that Clean Energy has been interested in. There's a lot of conservation questions and stuff. So I think that 10 things has a lot of merit to it, from my perspective anyway, of, getting, first of all, another educational aspect of getting people, and some people go, well, what are heat pumps? And stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, I think it's, looking for, are there areas where people say, yeah, we should really be doing this? And I know that some of this stuff has been done, because a couple of years ago, but someone who was a professor, I think, at the school had created a rain garden. His kid was in school, maybe it was in 4th grade or something like that. Because I know we use that in our sustainability
right.
application that we put that was in there, and that was a good teaching training kind of view. So some of the stuff that is mentioned has been done before for a while, I thought the idea of you know, teaching about climatology was great to put in the curriculum. I think that was right. I mean, that really appealed to me. But anyway, I mean, yes, you can certainly get back to Al and find out more, be more clear about things, but it does seem like there's a lot of richness in those ideas that they put out.
So, some of them are already, like the building committee is already working on the solar and HVAC.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So-
and that could, you know, so there could be a question or an item in one of the other questions about, again, those are energy efficient things. So increasing energy efficiency in all the public buildings, for example,
Right.
could be, you know, could pull that issue about that people might, how much people care about that without making it specific to the school or whatever.
Right, and that's already a goal of the Clean Energy Task Force.
Exactly. So, you know, that could be a more general goal rather than just a little piece of the school or the education piece.
Yeah, I think we should try to filter out some of the things that are exclusively managed by the school,
Right.
you know, and really can't be applied townwide
Right.
or whatever. And there were, I thought there were a few things in there like that.
Yeah.
And even some things that had been tried before, and I know exactly, like recycling, the composting. Do you know what kids do with their food when they're done? It's not pretty. They will not separate recycling things from food waste, you know, so it's just you're
Not gonna happen, huh?
everything from a preschooler to a you know, 8th grader. So that's
They are
stuff
doing recycling in the Mansfield school system.
yeah, well, didn't work at Ashford for whatever reason. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that may be true, but you know, just because it didn't work one time, it doesn't mean we
Yep.
can't continue to do it, because
Ex-
I think kids, you know, as time goes on, kids are the ones who are the educated people. I mean, when they first started recycling with cans and everything, it was really the kids that they targeted. So the kids would say to their parents, you know, why are you throwing that can away? How come you're not putting it in recycling? So I think a lot of it is that educate, you know, what do they call that? The knee teaching or something, because the kids pull on the parents' knee and say, no, don't do that. Don't do that way, mom and dad. You know, this is what we need to do. So I think there's also, you know, educational factors that influence what we do differently than, you know, we don't whoever thought about recycling when I was growing up? I mean,
Yeah, right.
yeah, well, of course that was in another century, but I mean, but it's like, you know,
There were
that
dinosaurs to eat everything.
right, exactly. So I think even if you look at, you know, what we were thinking about when we first started the Conservation Commission and what we're thinking about now, and you know, some of those areas of really looking at, I mean, I think about all the time that we have an Ashford Farmers Market, but there are very few Ashford people who are at the Ashford Farmers Market. We finally got a couple of people. We got Jasmine, who is involved with Henrietta B&B, and we have Art Talmadge. He and his wife came back and they were selling maple syrup, which was great. But you know, most of the people who are there selling are not from Ashford, which should, you know, we should have more people. And it's not like we haven't reached out, but I mean, that's another area right there. And people say, well, we should increase the market, but you know, I think we should try and get more and more Ashford people there, right? I mean, that's a goal.
Right. Hey, I'm sorry, but I have to go. So good night, everyone.
Thanks for
Good
joining
night,
us on
Janet.
your little vacation.
Welcome.
Oh, have
Okay,
fun.
bye, Janet.
Bye.
Hi, Janet. I think another thing that we need to think about or should keep in mind as we're thinking more about questions is response sets. So it's important to keep response sets sort of simple and kind of consistent throughout the survey. Yes, I mean, you can have a number of short yes or no questions, but then the longer embedded questions should sort of have the same response sets if you can, you know, like 1 to 5 or whatever,
Yeah,
and
sure.
not have people have to jump around between ways of responding. So kind of think about that when you're thinking about questions too.
We tried to
that's
do
what we-
that with the housing survey.
Right.
But it's like the last edit, you go through and make sure
Exactly.
everything's consistent.
Exactly. But you can sort of think about that at the beginning, you know, like, okay, what's a more general question that might tap into all these things? And that's what we did with the car questions. What general items could be the same kind of response set for all of them, whatever.
And just keep in mind that any written survey needs to be written at a 5th grade reading level.
Exactly. 3rd. It's supposed to be 6th, but yeah, 5th maybe.
So how do we
Yeah.
know when, how do we know when everyone has submitted what they're going to submit? You know,
He
for,
set a deadline.
you mentioned you haven't heard from the Farm Commission. We haven't heard from Economic Development.
Oh,
I mean, probably haven't heard from a lot of commissions. At what point does it get assembled and then?
Well, I think I mean, I can resend another email out to Margie and Luther and say, you know, and I think maybe we could meet again in person in 2 weeks, say, after people are digesting what we talked about tonight, and look at how we can, you know, sort of begin some of the I mean, I think we have a base of some of the questions that are already kind of in the works, in the pot kind of thing. And if we can, you know, embellish on that, I think we could really make some really good progress meeting. And I can say, you know, that we are meeting at this time and would appreciate some sort of response from you, which I think in 2 weeks would give them their time to meet in their commission. Because I don't think they've met since I sent it out. I don't think Economic Development or Ag Commission have met since then.
We'll have to submit to you, Loretta, because we're going to be out of town.
What's your time frame about out of town?
We're gone the 8th through the 20th.
8th.
yeah, I'm gone the 8th through the 11th, so.
Okay. Let me look here.
Yes, sir.
Well, you're there. I'm here.
Yeah, it seems like we're kind of close to, you know, putting something down on paper. That's a good start, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just wonder, you know, is somebody else going to come along and have a whole bunch of other questions too, you know? That they're going to lobby to be included, so.
Well, I think we probably will, you know, if that happens, we'll probably end up sending something to PZC that has more than it should. And you know, Tyke is gonna probably put everything together at the end anyway.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, I think. So, you know, some of it will get weeded out by whatever, but if we can do the initial draft and the initial weeding kind of, and the kind of initial premise maybe, I think that's the best we can do.
I think we all
Because-
have a better idea now of what we're kind of going for.
Yeah, yeah. But no, we're not gonna totally control this.
You know,
But again-
maybe the wiser thing to do is, since 2 of you are gonna be away for part of October, if in the our next meeting is the 23rd of October.
Right. Maybe we
Maybe
could
we
meet in
could
person
just
for that.
meet
Meet together.
in person in October at our regular meeting. And
I
you
think
know,
that
sort
sounds
of
great.
have some ideas based on what's happened tonight, and looking at what people have submitted. Maybe Steve, you could send your stuff to everybody.
Oh,
that
yeah,
you-
sure. I'm happy to do that. And in fact, I'd suggest, yeah,
It would be great if everybody could send stuff as they're writing out stuff, so then
Yeah.
we have an idea of what we're looking at.
Right.
And, you know, kind of tweak what we're doing and
Mhm,
mesh it with what everyone else is doing.
mhm.
right. It's nice to see it. Huh, I wonder, okay, I'm trying to think if we could share, I could create a space where we could all share documents.
How about Dropbox?
I hate Dropbox. I like Google.
You did something.
I
last
will
time,
not use
Steve,
Google.
you-
I will
you
not use
created
Google,
something
Steve.
for us last time that was a working document that might have been on the open space plan.
Yeah, yeah,
That
that was
that
basically, you can
that kind of
share
works.
documents in Google, but
I won't do it.
Christine seems to be,
I'm on,
against it for
won't
some
do
reason.
Google.
Why?
Can't we just email them?
Yeah, let's just email them.
Well, we'll email you and then we'll share our.
Oh, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah,
Just make sure you send me everything in PDF or Word. I will not do Google Docs.
All right, well, fine. You know, we know what people are interested in. You know, people can just go easy on themselves and just email and whatever. We'll just stay in touch, and we'll just plan on, like I said, meeting in person. And you know, I think it's easier to write something.
It
And
is.
we'll each have our own stuff that we've been working on. So I'm impressed. I think we have a really good start here and got some things going. And I really appreciate that everybody, you know, took me seriously and started thinking about this and working on it, because I think it's an important thing. And I think we are all invested in the town and really want things to happen. And several of you have done surveys before, so I think we're the best people to give it to planning and zoning, and that they're gonna, you know, the PLC committee, whoever they are, which I think are going to include a lot of planning and zoning people, they don't have to take everything that we give them, but I think if we do a lot of the legwork, it's jump starts this process, because
Right.
I know how long it takes when you do a good job, because I know how long we met with the 2005, and you know, a lot of people were involved, and I think that ends up a better document. And we've already got a lot of people involved in already what we've had, and we also have the last survey in 2005 to pull from. So I think it should, whatever we come up with, I think will be a very good job. So
Mhm.
I'm excited about doing that, and really, I think it'll be good to have everybody together to do it. I think it makes more sense. It's harder on Zoom for me anyway.
Yeah, I know. This is not a Zoom thing. And we've also got a more active citizenry because of the mega warehouse. There are a lot more
That's
people
different
who
people
care
Well,
these
that-
days.
who would be
You know-
answering the survey
Yeah,
early
If we have more people who care. I think we have more people who are aware.
Paying attention.
yeah,
and paying
exactly.
attention.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
were people who contacted me and said, why is conservation wanting to put up a warehouse? They had no idea of how our town works, and
Yeah.
you know, all of the regulations and the rules of planning and zoning, no idea of that at all. So
Hence-
I
Yeah.
think that proved to be a highly educational situation for people.
Right. Hence my commentary or suggestions for questions to the residents about what could we do to improve your knowledge of how the town works? Because it's
I-
clear many people have no clue.
Well, that's what I was thinking when you were talking about education. It might be nice if they taught the students how the town government works.
So let me just tell you that the Keep Ashford Rural Group has some educational materials on their website and has sent out an email to all the people who were interested in getting emails from that group that there are more educational materials on the website, and that will continue to propagate. The other thing is, so Loretta and I also talked to Jeff about a forum about broad area economic development and conservation, how to get a balance. And Jeff thought that was a great idea and thought that Our Town, Our Future is clearly the avenue to put that together. So Gwen, I don't know if Nora Galvin has talked to you about that, but she's just joined Our Town, Our Future and is going to be pushing for that group to do a forum on that topic.
Huh, that's interesting because that's exactly what I suggested in my comments. So, you know, seminars, this is
Yes.
this is
Well,
what PZC is bound by. They don't get to say what development comes. They get to vote on whether it meets the regs.
right. But no, I mean, so that's what we, CAR is trying to get to happen is more education. So Gwen, are you still on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so
When is their next meeting, Gwen? Your next meeting, do you know offhand?
It was changed last time to a different, it was Monday. It's a Monday,
right.
but sometimes there's a conflict with another meeting, a selectman meeting, and so then it was changed last week to that
Right.
Monday, but it's not normally that Monday. I have to go look at my email.
So is it coming, it's coming up soon then?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, all right, I'll send an email out to Mike and mention that if you guys came up with some questions, that would be great.
yeah, there's a lot of people who are for economic development. I would say that's my
Right.
general feeling about that committee.
Mhm.
You would get a totally
Well,
different.
Yeah. Nora has just joined that committee and is a Keep Ashford Rural person. So you now have a compatriot.
Yes.
But it's fine. Economic development doesn't necessarily mean not rural.
Right,
The two
but
can
it's
go
about
together. And
balance.
unfortunately, lines get drawn and then it becomes really dangerous because
Right,
then people look at us and say, well, you don't want to cut down any trees,
right.
and
You
that's
have
not
we
true.
want the mega warehouse, and so you don't want to have all this conflict.
Right. Exactly. So I think there's that coming together and talking back and forth and not just going with the labels, of,
Yep,
yeah, okay, someone, is in favor of the warehouse, okay, but also is in forest legacy. So they're saving and protecting their land, you see, and that's where a lot of people fall in Ashford. It's not A or B, it's really looking at those fine distinctions and not just putting a hat on someone and say, oh, there's Loretta, she's a tree hugger.
Right.
I'm not a tree hugger, I'm not saying that. And I was
That's not
very
all you
sad when
are.
Ashford Oak fell down, but
We still want a restaurant too.
right, exactly.
Right.
Still want to rest, and I want a coffee bar, wine bar. I want to
Right.
be able to go out in my town and sit with my friends and
Yes,
talk about all the terrible things that are happening in Ashford.
I want a sidewalk cafe, yes.
But we don't have any sidewalks.
I know.
Or I want Target. I don't want Walmart. It's like,
Oh, gross, I don't want either.
Well, okay, I think anyone else, oh wait, did I cover everything? I don't even know. Where's my
Probably not.
I think so. I think you did it.
Oh, it's right here. I turned the page over. Oh, yeah, I talked about, yeah, okay. I think I got everything covered. Right. Anybody else have any other comments?
Did anyone go, I keep saying threatening to do it, but I haven't done it yet, to go out to that, bike park in Pomfret. Has anybody been out there to visit?
Haven't.
I
I
only
did
went
go out
virtually.
there, and it was during the week, it was mid-afternoon. There were many cars there for something, I think it might have been a Wednesday afternoon. With bikes, I would say there were probably 8 cars there. So it looked like it's a well-used trail.
And
I didn't go on it, I just drove in there.
yeah, I was kind of curious about the, erosion, how well the trails are, yeah, that sort of thing. And I will go there probably this week.
Mhm.
But when it's not raining, actually, I thought maybe go when it's raining. because-
Exactly, or after it's all
I
this
looked,
rain.
I looked
Probably
in
pretty wet
satellite,
right now.
I looked in satellite view and I was really surprised how many densely curving squiggly trails there were, completely different than a rail trail, which, my son goes out on the rail trail with this new e-bike that he has, and the new ones, it's scary how fast they go. When he first got it, and I'm trying to follow in a car, and I think the thing went up to 40 miles per hour. And then he had to learn to use the throttle and make it go slow. And I'm really scared for him to use this. Plus, I'm scared for people hiking, horses on trails, and multi-use with electronic bikes. The rail trail is one thing, it's wide. You can see the people and go around them, it's straight. But these curvy trails that I saw in satellite view, when I looked at the Pomfret area, I was amazed at the size of the system and the curviness and it could set up for people going opposite directions to go into each other. So it made me think we need one-way trails if we're going to do this.
Yeah,
I think
oh.
bikers have that worked out.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Mom-
it's not a new sport. This is a very heavily and very popular attraction for people. And
Yeah, but it's the
there's common courtesies that bikers have that when they're dealing with each other in that sort of
yeah, but it's the
Other
multi-use, the
than
bikers and hikers
Yeah.
that scares
Bikers are
me.
very good about if they're coming along with hikers, they'll let them know that they're coming, if they're coming from behind them. Hikers generally are quite accommodating of that if they're on the same trails that the bikers are.
It's kind of like skiers, if you have somebody coming real fast and you're, on the hill, they'll say to your left, to your right. I mean, yes, there are crashes,
And then there are crashes, yeah.
but they're going downhill pretty fast. But
In some places they separate, like in the Adirondacks, they will have the cross-country ski trails and the skidoo trails separate, because you're going to have a lot of deaths if you have them both of the same trail.
this is not that. I think bikers are will the ones who have been doing it for a while will reinforce for people who have not done it before, and they will let them know what the rules are, whether they're actually written somewhere or not. But you'll find out pretty quick.
Well, if
Yeah,
if the trails are very curvy, a person can't be going that fast around curves. I mean, it's not a racetrack. I don't really think that people are going at top speed on a narrow, curvy, slopey up and down. Well, maybe, but really,
Well, I
I
think
think the average person is not gonna.
Have you seen
Excessive speed.
skateboarders? Have you seen kids will do a lot of crazy things?
no,
They're
I
not going to be on the bike trails.
think mountain bikers are all about challenging trails, and the more thrill there is, the more speed is one thing, logs are another thing,
Jumps.
jumps of various kinds. Those are all they're part of it, and that's what makes a place, a destination. So when I go there, what I'm going to be looking for is the impact on the land, whether or not it would be a very, shared use. Or is it so dominated by the bike people that, you know, a hiker wouldn't be attracted to it, you know?
Yeah.
So,
But maybe in winter, snowshoer, you wouldn't have the bikes out there maybe in the winter.
oh, no, they would be there in the
They
winter.
go in the winter.
Nothing stops them from,
That's part of the challenge.
yeah,
Oh,
oh, for sure.
Going down the road, even
They have
thinking
tread.
about all of this.
You keep talking about it, Steve. You're
Put that on
piquing my
hold.
curiosity. I think I want to go into mountain
Well,
biking. It sounds
Yeah, I mean, I have friends
Big
who
thrills.
do it, you know, so it's whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
I want to hear you check out the trail.
yeah, okay.
Probably in pretty bad shape right now with all this rain we've been having.
Well,
would
see,
think.
that's
It
the
shouldn't
other
be.
part. If
It
they
shouldn't be.
ride in in the wet weather, they damage the land
Yeah.
quite a bit. So,
Yep.
about boardwalk, putting in a lot of boardwalks, and then they had a ladder, a metal ladder with slats over it. I'd never heard of that.
oh yeah, yeah, again, it's the challenge, you know, something different to ride over, a different surface. You know, there's competitions too, and that's the other thing that scared me when they were talking about it. It's like, oh yeah, we get 100 people. It's like 100 people? Are you kidding? You know, that's
In
a
Cattle
lot.
Rock. Yeah.
Yeah. But whatever. So I'll let you know. And again, it should be this week. I'll take a lot of pictures. And maybe
Good.
I'll even do a drone thing.
Oh, good. There you go.
Oh. Oh, well,
Well, great.
that's
Well,
all I had. Sorry.
We have our work cut out for us, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, everybody, and
Okay.
have a good October. Don't forget
Yeah.
your survey. So we'll meet in person next time and do some work.
Good,
All right.
good.
Thank you all.
Love to
Okay.
see
Nice.
the ideas come together. Yeah, great.
Yeah. Good. Bye-bye.